So preventive healthcare I think is a, इतने सारे जो waste निकलते हैं यहाँ से, how can we actually ensure that the waste from the toilets, आज तो बहुत सारे toilets बन चुके हैं and धीरे धीरे indicating that people are adopting the toilets, but at the same time what happens, create those infrastructure to ensure toilets do not get clogged. This is the sanitation is complete to the point that it is safely disposed through a sewage treatment system, through a sludge treatment system, and then it is actually used as a manure, or the water is recovered and then discharged into the nearest water body. So all of these, and again talking about water, dispose it or should we actually restore it? That's another interesting point. So there are questions that if you have really treated the water and this water is of a usable quality, why actually throw it back? Why don't you use it in that locality again? So can we create community level water banks? And these water banks can actually help tide over some of the summer shortages. So there are many issues.
Yeah. Do we have any model, such model which can be in other areas? Do we have any model in any district or of Bihar where defecation system is good, is what you are suggesting, and where water treatment is taking place, and that water can be reused?
See, a lot of work is happening on the Ganga program in Patna. So in that area, there are new sewage treatment plants coming up. There are new infrastructure being laid out. So a lot of related work is happening in Patna itself, but also I would say in areas like Gaya we spoke about. So these are areas which attracts a lot of foreign tourists, by the way. So these are areas uh, where a lot of attention is being given to waste management. Although Gaya, I think, is one of the dirtiest cities still in India, but as per the Center for Science and Environment report, but still, I would say that there are efforts that are happening, small efforts, which is still not showing the desired results. But I would say that these efforts are nonetheless important, and we are creating structures and systems which at this point there is a huge deficit. But at the same time, if we continue with these kind of efforts, then over the near future, I'm very hopeful that we are going to see some remarkable changes.
आ, क्या आपको ऐसा लगता है कि पॉपुलेशन, बिहार की पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी बहुत ज्यादा है, तो बिहार के लिए कानून व्यवस्था के साथ साथ एक जो बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है वो यहाँ की जनसंख्या भी है?
See, I with two hands to work and a brain to create new ideas. So the population, to my mind, is not a problem. And the more important thing is that population, as it develops, the population, the development जिस तरह से बढ़ता जाता है, the population की growth उसी हिसाब से घटता भी जाता है. And we can see this. I mean, by 2005 or 6, I think Bihar was one of the fastest growing states. It's still now, I think, is one of the fastest growing in terms of population. But the rate of growth is definitely falling, and falling remarkably fast. Maybe 2021 के census आने वाली है. So we will see the numbers, and we can see that as the development picks up, as women become more educated, as the health of women and children improve, they are more confident of producing children who are going to survive the first 5 years, and thereafter become adults, and they are going to become, and it is worth investing on a child. That is the inflection point at which I think people are going to themselves reduce the number of children that they are going to have. Again, a personal experience I have seen in one of the villages, a very small child who was mud. And I looked around and I saw barely a teenage girl. And I said, who is this child? And she said, it's my child. I said, look at him, he's just playing in the mud. And she said, well, जीता है तो जीता है, मरता है तो मरता है, हमें क्या? This was the mother. Now, the question is that it shocks. But at the same time, you see that girl, she is barely out of her teens. She is married and having a child. And it's not done. So the question is, there are very deep questions within these questions. And how do we actually address which are the parts that we should address? Is it a question about controlling population, or is it a question of educating our girl child, or is it a question of ensuring that they marry at the right age? Is
And
it a question?
educating the family.
So it's all of these. So we these different about equality, about health, about education. Now, and none of these work in isolation. So it's a huge challenge if you look at it, but at the same time, in each of these segments, one has to identify the starting points and then connect the dots and then wait for a long period of time and diligently work towards it in order to achieve some success. And that, I think, is the real challenge of Bihar, uh, which hopefully is going to show some results.
जी, बिहार में चुनौतियों के अलावा कई अवसर भी हैं और
Hmm.
उन चुनौतियों को कैसे अवसर में बदला जाए। जैसे बिहार की जो भूमि है वो बहुत उपजाऊ है, लेकिन इस कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत में हमने ये चर्चा की थी कि आप जिस तरह बता रहे थे कि लैंड तो है लोगों के पास, या छोटा भी खेती की जमीन है, लेकिन उसको प्रोटेक्ट करना, उसकी रक्षा करना, वो बहुत बड़ा एक चैलेंज है। लेकिन जब जहाँ भूमि इतनी उपजाऊ है, जहाँ ऐसी फसलें उगती थी जिनसे लोगों में समृद्धि आती थी, समृद्धि बढ़ती थी, वो धीरे धीरे गायब होती चली गई। या फिर जिस तरह का कहा जाता है कि हरियाणा या पंजाब में एग्रीकल्चर को लेकर जितनी प्रगति देखी गई उतनी बिहार में नहीं देखी गई है। तो क्या एक ऐसे ही ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन की जरूरत है बिहार को भी, कि वहां जो क्वालिटी हो, चाहे आप जितना इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं फसल को लगाने पे, उतना ही आपको रिटर्न मिले।
देखिए, जैसे कि मैं बता रहा था कि छोटे छोटे जो जमीन तो है, एंड
जी,
मेनी ऑफ दिस इज आइदर मैकेनाइजेशन और गिविंग इट आउट ऑन।
साइंटिफिक तरीके नहीं यूज हो रहे, या
हाँ,
जिस तरह की एडवांस टेक्निक है खेती में होनी चाहिए, वो उसकी कमी दिख रही है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। So, and the reason is this: what is the purpose of that kheti? What is why are people into farming? That is the
जी,
question. So people are into farming not because they want to earn a lot from the farm sector, but because they want to earn enough, keep them going, and to produce something that they can that will ensure food security at the household level. Now, how do they bring about this mindset change to actually see the land as a productive system from where they can earn a living and from which a marketing system can develop? So that's these are two different worlds, and the different world is something. And the moment you think about this transition, what happens is that transition from a protective system where I'm looking at my own food security and I'm happy with a few bags full of cereals or a full few bags which will see me through the rest of the year and it's making me and my family food secure, I'm
जी,
not interested in selling really. So the selling part takes becomes a secondary thing. Now, how can that secondary thing become the primary thing is the key question that we are asking. Only then Bihar will become a more productive state. And once that begins to happen, we would start seeing that a lot of people who would be moving out of agriculture, and that will again happen when they are confident that even without producing a few bagful of cereals for themselves, they can still have enough food in their house for the rest of the year. So the question is, I think the biggest thing that is happening right now is the direct benefit transfer. So if people are slowly getting used to this fact that there is enough money in the bank to buy food at any time they need. They don't really need to produce food for their own consumption. They are going to then look beyond agriculture. They are going to look beyond agriculture into other dimensions of industries, of services, of a variety of other things. So if you want to pull out people from agriculture, one is of course to give them that protection that you are secure, your food is secure, you're not going to go hungry, your family is not going to go hungry. That's the number one thing. And number two, you have to give them a system where anyway they are not, many of the people are not farming themselves. They are basically outsourcing it to an even poorer farmer to farm on their lands. So in that sense, what we are seeing is an even poorer farmer with less skills actually trying to produce more food. Whereas what is important today is cutting edge technology, cutting edge seed quality, much better in input systems. So, who is going to bring all of this? It has to come from somewhere. So, some agricultural produce companies or some other enterprise which is related to agriculture has to take over this system and has to produce and provide an alternative. Now, this is something where you are very right that we need some models. So, unless there are some models, unless somebody shows that yes, this is possible, it is not going to happen. Again, I think some steps are being taken in that direction, particularly the recent announcement of heavy duty agricultural reforms. Let's hope things happen.
जी। इसके अलावा मैं चर्चा करना चाहूंगी बिहार में, बिहार की कुछ अपनी स्ट्रेंथ भी हैं। अगर टेक्सटाइल्स की बात करें तो देश भर में भागलपुरी चाहे सिल्क हो, चाहे फैब्रिक हो, या कई तरह की जो टेक्सटाइल है उसके लिए, हैंडीक्राफ्ट आइटम्स के लिए जाना जाता है। बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं जिसमें बिहार को जाना जाता है। तो वो कैसी, बिहार की कौन-कौन सी स्ट्रेंथ है, ताकतें हैं जो बिहार को प्रगति के पथ पर वापस ला सकती हैं?
See, agriculture is definitely an important area where the maximum transformation is going to take place. और agriculture के साथ जुड़ा हुआ है कि how that surpluses are generated out of agriculture and invested into industries. That's number two. And industries की जब बात करते हैं, then you are very right. Here, the first thing that comes to mind is the textile industry. So, which again is a very labor-intensive industry. जहाँ पे Bihar was very good at one point of time, अभी भी काफी हद तक है, and a revival is possible. भागलपुर की बात की है, गया की है. So there are some of these areas where it is possible to bring back the textile industry to a very large extent. साथ ही साथ जो जुड़ा हुआ है, the third one, and that is a very powerful one, and that is I think a unique strength of Bihar, which is tourism. And particularly the tourism related to the religious tourism. And religious tourism, people do not realize it is a veritable gold mine. But tourism will only happen when there is some basic infrastructure in terms of urban amenities, in terms of industrialization, urbanization होने के बाद ही tourism की जो लाभ है वो हम ले पाएंगे. और tourism अगर आप देखें तो ये सिर्फ बुद्धा के लिए नहीं है. बुद्धिस्ट टूरिज्म तो सर्किट डेफिनेटली इज क्वाइट वेल नोन. जैन सर्किट इज आल्सो देयर.
बिल्कुल, राजगीर उसका केंद्र है.
बिल्कुल, राजगीर में बोथ जैन एंड बुद्धिस्ट टूरिज्म